Hey guys, Dr. Justin Marcagiani here with Daniel Ebbett. Today we're going to be talking all about blue light. Daniel runs and owns the website BlockBlueLight.com. So we'll be diving into his story, some of the science, and some recommended changes and things that you can do around your home to improve the negative impacts on blue light. Daniel, welcome to the podcast. How you doing, man?
Hey, Justin. Yeah, doing well, thanks. Excited to be here and get into all things health and light.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, patients reach out all the time and they have blue light issues, or they have circadian rhythm issues, sleep issues, and we know blue light can be an important part of rectifying that. So, I'm excited to kind of first, before we get into the science and such, I want to hear your story. How did you? Because it's unique for someone to say, "I'm going to just create a store and technology for reducing blue light." How did you come across this? Tell me about your story.
Yeah, sure. Well, for me, it really started about 11 years ago. So
Hmm.
it's quite a thing. I've been on quite the journey. I wasn't always into this sort of like space around like circadian biology
Hmm.
and how it impacts, our health. But for me, it started in university. I grew up in New
Hmm.
Zealand, sort of at a small university here in New Zealand, studying sort of like technical IT and business. Towards the end of my studies, I sort of felt like I wanted to start to get healthier, right? Like I was about to enter the workforce, about to start my career, and I thought, you know, not that I was unhealthy, but I was sort of like, 3 years of university and kind of just like, as a student, partying a bit too much, probably not really having like that core focus. So in the last year of my studies, I really got into health. So I was uh, taking nutrition really seriously, got right into exercise, and was actually starting to compete in like powerlifting here in New Zealand and then later in Australia. So yeah, I set myself up when I was leaving university to enter the workforce, and I was feeling really good, good in good shape, feeling good, good
Hmm.
energy. Then I decided to move over to Australia because the career opportunities in New Zealand are limited based on we're just a tiny population, 5 million people here. So I decided to jump the ditch over to Australia and start a sort of a graduate position with a large insurance company there. So I was kind of working in the big CBD, up high rise of building, working in IT
Hmm.
as a graduate, and within the space of I'd say about 2 months of being in that position, I started to get quite severe migraine attacks in the office, where like I was so sensitive to light, I had to go shut myself into meeting rooms. And then the big thing for me was I was getting insomnia. So I would go to bed at sort of like about midnight. I'd have to stay up quite late due to being the graduate in IT, like doing out of hours changes and stuff like that. Like, the stuff that no one really wanted to do was lumped with me to do at night. So I'd go to bed about midnight, and then I'd be waking up at about 2 a.m., 2 to 3 a.m., and then I couldn't sleep. And that pattern got worse, and it just continued to evolve where I could barely function during the day, and then I could barely sleep at night, and the pattern just continued, and so then I had severe like sleep deprivation, which was causing quite severe hormonal
So how
dysregulation.
did you know to jump on board with the blue light thing versus like diet or supplements or
Yeah,
and something else environmental? How did you know to go there?
that's the interesting thing. So initially, I did what most people would do. I went to my conventional doctor and was
Yeah.
like help. Like I can't sleep. I can barely function during the day. My mood is up screwed. I'm just I'm struggling, and that led down like a big path of like, okay, well, let's try and give you sleeping tablets. They didn't work. Let's try and give you some antipsychotic medication, some antidepressant medication. So I went through a whole cocktail of prescription medication over about a year of me going back and forward, and it got to the point where my doctor was like, well, and this is, I think, them just putting the flag up saying we can't band-aid this with any prescription medication anymore. We didn't ever do any root cause analysis, but essentially saying, hey, look, we can't find anything wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's in your head, sort of thing. And I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like I was fine. I was feeling good. I had good energy, and now suddenly I can't sleep, and I've got migraines, and I'm barely functioning. I feel very sick, and so at this point, I was like, well, this doesn't work, right? Like this is not going to fix me. Where all we're trying to do is continue to throw different drugs at the problem And then essentially when they don't work, they say, well, there's nothing wrong with you. So I took it into my own hands essentially. And I was like, well, and I just started researching, and this is 10 years ago. So the accessibility of knowledge we have of health knowledge wasn't like it is today, right? Like podcasts like this didn't exist. And then, I mean, what we did have back then was like health forums, right? So I was just trawling the internet and just desperate, right? And I stumbled across a neurosurgeon based in the US called Dr. Jack Kruse.
Yes.
And he's a little bit more widely known today, but he certainly wasn't very well known 10 years ago. But what he talked about was so different to what conventional, the mainstream was talking about around health. Sure. I was always taught if you eat healthy and you exercise, you'll be healthy. And there's no way you could be sick or if you are sick, it means you're not doing those things enough. Like you mustn't be exercising enough, or you mustn't be eating well enough. And that was ingrained in me. And then when I just suddenly started listening to this guy, and he was like, it's not about what you eat, it's about your environment, and it's primarily about your light environment, because light governs your biology. Where human beings have evolved on this planet Earth under the sun, which has day and night cycles, and our biology has ultimately evolved over millions of years to honor those cycles, and that's how we release different neurotransmitters and different hormones based on the exposure to different types of light. Exactly. And I thought that was such an interesting concept, and I was like, this guy sounds crazy. He sounds absolutely nuts, and he's very difficult to understand. But I was like, that, and I just deep dived and went down rabbit holes of learning and listening to what he had to say, reading his blogs, then going over to different research, reading different books, and then ultimately going, okay, I think there's something here. How do I, what's the practical takeaways I can start to test these things out on, like an N=1 here, but the research shows this. And then I started looking at my own lifestyle, was like, whoa, it's so disconnected from nature now. Like I work indoors all day under fluorescent lighting. I'm on screens all day, and then I'm going from that environment to a gym under the same fluorescent lighting, training under there, going home on screens till like midnight, doing work, and then expecting my body to just suddenly be able to switch off and go to sleep for 8 hours. So I sort of was like, there's something here. And so, I mean, I just started with some basic things, and the concept of blue light blocking glasses or blue light glasses 10 years ago didn't exist. But, that terminology, people didn't know what that was. And so there were a pair of safety glasses I ordered on Amazon that were designed to block about 99% of blue light. And so I wanted to test the theory where I could use these glasses to manipulate my environment in a way that wasn't me trying to just go off the grid and live in nature, because it's not practical. I needed to earn a living, as we all do. But how can I use some tools like glasses to filter the light spectrums coming into my eyes to then allow my brain, when it's supposed to understand it's night, to really understand it's night. And for the first time in a year, like I started to see positive changes, and I was like, whoa, hold on, I'm onto something here. Like these glasses cost me $20 off Amazon, and they are now making a significant change to my conditions. I'm starting to sleep better, starting to feel better during the day. And I was like, this is so bizarre, because I spent, a year going to doctors, with advanced medical degrees and all these advanced pharmaceutical drugs. And like the solution was like, get outside, get good natural light, and wear like a $20 pair. I'm really simplifying it here, but a $20 pair of glasses, right? And I was kind of like really taken back by it. And I was like, well, and I thought to myself, like, I can't be the only one, right? I don't live such a different lifestyle. Exactly. With so many other people. And I thought, well, I feel like a bunch of people would have just accepted, like, that's their reality. Like when the doctor tells you there's nothing wrong with you, just continue to take these sleeping pills. I felt like so many people must just give up at that point, because for me it was, I mean, I'm stubborn, right? I just don't, when I need to figure something out, I figure something out. And that's kind of, guess what I kind of did in this situation. But what it did is it ignited a bit of a fire in me. I was like, well, I need to tell everyone about this. I need to try and like everything I've learned, I want people to learn this as well. I don't want people to have to go like, how can I use my year of suffering that fixed my health to help other people? And so ultimately what I did to start with was like, well, those glasses that had such a profound impact on my life, let's just order 20 of them in, start up a website, start writing blogs, and start trying to like educate people. And this was 10 years ago in 2015. The BlockBlueLight was born. And I'm going to be honest, like a lot of people didn't listen to me. Like the world wasn't ready for what I had to say. But in saying that, like it was also because the world hadn't evolved into where we are today. In 2015, I think it was like the iPhone 2 or iPhone 3. Not everyone had one of these things in their pockets.
Correct.
So we have advanced into like a digital age. We have got devices. All our lighting in our homes has changed over from incandescent, which is a great heat source, very biologically appropriate lighting, to an LED-based light source. We've got street lights, car headlights. We've got light pollution everywhere in today's world. So whilst I say initially people didn't listen to me, some people did. I mean, I would say like your really dedicated health biohackers were the people. They were my audience 10 years ago. But as we've evolved into this digital age, the people that are aware of this and wanting to do something about it is starting to expand further and further out to wider circles now. And so I've just spent the last 10 years trying to service that market, trying to create solutions and products all around how can we live in the modern world, and how can we make sure this light pollution that we're exposed to doesn't have such detrimental effects on our health. Because the reality, like I said, is we all can't just go live in the bush and go next to a campfire every night, because it's not practical and it's not reality.
Correct. So when you started making these changes, right, you're in an office environment. What was the first change? Was it just getting some blue blocking glasses? Was it changing some of the light bulbs? Did you get a low blue light, low flicker screen? Did you do any of the apps to kind of lessen the blue light? What's the kind of like the minimal investment to kind of get going for you to actually see some results back in the day?
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, the top three things I did, first of all, the issue with the office environment is you don't really have control over the light environment in there. You can't swap out, like I worked in a big corporate, so the reality was I couldn't say, hey, I want you to turn off all the lights, or I want you to change them. So you have to work around those things. So the three big things I did were I installed a piece of software on my screens and it's a free piece of software called Flux, or f.lux.
Yes.
And that can manipulate the levels of blue light that come off the screen to bring them down to more what I'd call more balanced levels. So that helped with the screens, but obviously there's still the full environment around us. So the next investment was, like I said, I initially started with a very cheap pair of safety glasses that I would use intermittently during the day to just lower the levels. Now, what I'd learned later is obviously they weren't actually optimal to use during the daytime because they were blocking too much blue light.
Too much, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but initially I was still testing the theory with them. So it still showed me that, you want to have some kind of filtration on your eyes in an office environment, not probably to the level, around 50% is where you actually want to land. Because you still need blue light stimulation during the day. It's very important, and actually
because you can get tired almost, right? If you don't, it's too dark. It's like working in a room that's pitch black. Like it can kind of, basically get the parasympathetic and get the melatonin up, and it starts throwing off the circadian rhythm, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, blue light's very, very essential for us during the daytime. It's regulating our neurotransmitters. It's regulating our energy through cortisol and adrenaline production to normal beneficial levels, and also dopamine and serotonin are regulated also through blue light exposure. So if you don't get enough of that, you don't stimulate those pathways enough, you'll feel tired, you will feel unmotivated, and you'll kind of feel like it's nighttime. So you've got to be very careful that you don't go to this pathway too much where it's like, hey, I'm going to demonize blue light, I need to get it out of my life. It's all about context around what time of the day it is, and yes, making sure you don't get unnatural levels where, hey, I'm getting it out of balance, where I'm getting too much blue light and not enough of the other spectrums. So that's number 3 for me. Is actually what I did is I made sure I got outside a lot. So because I found when I'd go to work, right, I'd arrive at sort of 8 a.m. and I wouldn't leave the building till like 5 p.m. And like I would just have breaks inside and have lunch inside. And I was like, so I made very conscious efforts to get outside like 4 times a day, even if it was just like small breaks for like 10 minutes, right? Like, a lot of my colleagues were going outside for like smoke breaks. And I was like, well, I'm going outside for like a light break just to get light in my eyes and help my circadian rhythm, help my understand what time of the day it is. I'd eat lunch outside, just, so that's when I got a good hour outside. So it was really about just trying to, as much as possible, as much as practically, getting outside, getting natural light exposure to break up my day, allow my circadian rhythm, or the clock system that lives in our brain, to be able to check in with the sun and understand what the actual time of the day is. Because when you go into an indoor light environment, your brain actually just continuously thinks it's solar noon, based on the spectrums of light that are coming off. So it doesn't actually get the ability to what I'd say like shift through the day. So that's very important. And then we talked about just sort of reducing the light exposure of blue light during the day. But what's really, really important is in the evening time, it's completely removing the blue light spectrum primarily from your eyes. Why this is important is because the sun is the only natural light source of blue light. So once the sun sets in nature, there is no such thing as blue light in our environment anymore. Well, before electricity, in the caveman days where they had fire, or color, the spectrums that come off fire are yellow, orange, and red light. There is no blue or green light. And so our biological systems that we've evolved with are blue light actually stimulates a wakefulness system through the brain, actually through receptors in our eyes called melanopsin receptors, that sends a signal into our brain that then sends signals to secrete wakefulness hormones. So if you have blue light exposure post-sunset, that system is doing exactly what it's designed to do, is to keep you awake and alert, because your brain doesn't actually realize that that's not the sun, because it's evolved to go, blue light comes from the sun, which means it's daytime. So we've got like all these what I call artificial suns in our world today, which is our phones, our lighting, the TV screens we look at, the car headlights, the street lights. It's essentially what I call this artificial stimulation of solar noon is everywhere now. So your circadian rhythm is confused. It doesn't understand. It can no longer elegantly tell a 24-hour cycle of day and night anymore based on the light signals that we're getting in the modern world. So that's kind of why it's really important to use things like glasses that block blue light at night, so your brain actually can actually recognize, hey, yeah, the sun has set. I need to start to like secrete melatonin. I need to start to get into a like parasympathetic state, so I can go into a rest and digest and sleep for the next day.
That makes sense.
8 hours.
Are you able to see my screen here, Daniel?
I can, yeah.
All right, cool. So I got Daniel's site up, BlockBlueLight.com. I want to talk about some of the glasses, right? You talked about starting with some really dark ones. Were you starting with these kind of amber ones here? And then how did you evolve using the different glasses? Let's talk about like the darker ones versus the lighter ones, and just kind of your experience and what are they doing? What frequencies are they blocking? How are they different?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, because in today's world, we're actually flooded with like so much different information and choices of blue light blocking glasses. And what's really important when you're using glasses is to make sure they're actually filtering the correct frequencies of light. So off our screens that we're looking at right now, and the LED lights that are above us, they primarily emit a frequency of blue light that's, light's measured in nanometers. Blue light ranges from 400 to 500 nanometers, but the peak of like disruption of blue light we get is 455 nanometers, a big spike in that frequency. So what's really important is during the daytime, you're trying to bring that spike down to more natural levels. So you need a set of glasses that will filter the blue light frequency of 455 nanometers by around 50%. So we've got more clear lens looking glasses. They exist everywhere, all these clear lens ones, but most of them don't even block or filter 455 nanometers. They have a kind of a real basic, what's called like a UV 420 coating on them. You can see this nice blue light reflecting off them. Oh, I've got blue light glasses, they must be working. The reality of those glasses is they filter blue light up to 420 nanometers, but your screen's emitting 450, and it's not even really emitting any light at 420. So what are they actually doing? It's like, it's not a hell of a lot. So the devil's in the detail when you're actually selecting glasses to really understand the science of the light, the problematic spectrums you're being exposed to during the daytime, and
So
making
how
sure
are
the
these
glasses.
blue lights different? Like, what's the frequency difference? Is this more at
Yeah,
450 versus 420? What's the difference?
correct. So our glasses will actually filter 50% of blue light up to 455 nanometers. Right at that spike, it brings it right down. Now the difference is we don't just rely on this technology of a nice reflective blue coating you can see on the glasses. We actually embed special pigments in the lens. As the light passes through, it absorbs the blue light frequency. So what comes onto the other side of the lens is a reduction in different light frequencies. So we can get quite granular in what frequencies we actually want to filter down with those sort of glasses. So that's the core difference between what we do is we really look at the science of like, okay, your screen's emitting these frequencies, how do we reduce them down? And then actually creating lens technology that can actually do that. Now, I'm not saying these other ones are technically blue light glasses. They are filtering blue light, but are they filtering the right frequencies of blue light? And that's the problem with them.
That makes sense. All right, good. And so the evolution here, we started with blue light glasses. And then if we go to these guys, the orange ones, what's happening here? I'm guessing just a higher percent reduction. What's happening?
Correct. So these are our nighttime ones where we go into the amber or red glasses. And
So now
the
we're going
big,
night.
yeah. So the big difference with these ones is they're eliminating 100% of blue light. So we've got an amber set, 100% of blue light is reduced. So that's the 400 to 500 nanometers. The blue light spectrum is eliminated because any amount of blue light in the evening is a signal in the brain when the light enters the eye. If there's any blue light present, even if it's just 5% of blue light, it's an unnatural spectrum. It triggers that pathway of through the melanopsin receptors that are activated through light. It sends a signal into the brain to start to secrete cortisol and adrenaline. And based on those hormones secreting, the opposing hormone to cortisol is melatonin. So you can't have high cortisol and melatonin at the same time. They oppose each other. They run on the opposite kind of like cycles. So if you suppress your melatonin is a very, very important hormone to help you sleep. So then it starts to impact your ability to get good quality sleep, whether it's falling asleep or staying asleep. Now, as you can see on the screen, we've actually got two different types of glasses with some that look more like a red lens. Now, the difference between those two are there was a piece of research done in 2001, and what this research looked at all frequencies of light and how much melatonin suppression was occurring in people. And so what they did is, and they mapped out on like a curve of all the way right through all the spectrums. And so what they found in this research was what I alluded to is, yes, blue light significantly suppresses melatonin. So they found the peak melatonin disruption was at 464 nanometers, and that was about 85% of melatonin was suppressed. But what the research also showed is suppression didn't suddenly finish at the end of the blue light spectrum. So blue light finished at 500 nanometers, but there was still melatonin suppression happening all the way through to 550 nanometers, which is 3/4 of the green light spectrum. So if you want to be completely optimal in the evening, you need to actually block most of the green light spectrum as well. And so that's what we've done with these red lenses. We've actually aligned them to that piece of research to say, well, let's actually completely eliminate the blue light spectrum and let's eliminate the green light spectrum up to 550 nanometers. So any light that's coming into the eyes has no melatonin suppression effects. And so green light is significantly less of a suppressor. Like I said, the peak was right in the middle of the blue light. So I think like in the green light, the melatonin suppression was sort of like 20 to 15%, so significantly lower, which is why you can still have significant benefits by just blocking the blue light spectrum. But hey, a lot of people don't just want to just do something sort of halfway. It's like if you want to be completely optimal and really dial your sleep in and get your circadian rhythm the way it should be, it's like, well, these are the red lens glasses are really the choice to go for.
So the green is going to be a big contributor. So if you're really having a hard time with sleep, you get the blue, but then you add in the little red orange tinge, because that gets the green light out. So you have more melatonin suppression.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, cool. So, all right. So, what's the next thing? So, any other sciencey thing. So, we're talking about the wavelength, that 4 to 450 ish wavelength is what we want to be blocking. Then the green goes a little bit above that, right? Maybe
Hmm.
into the low 500s. What's the next big thing we can work on? Is it changing out some of the lights? Is it just maybe if we have LED, putting a dimmer switch in so we can get some of the intensity down 80, 90%? What are the next simple things people can do around their home to make them more blue light friendly?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll just add on, which I think is very, very important, because everything we've talked about today is removing the blue light in the evening, making sure we're allowing our brains to recognize darkness, not suppressing melatonin. A very important thing actually starts at sunrise, or when you get up in the morning, is actually plays into this. So I alluded to earlier, like blue light, natural blue light's important for energy and mood regulation. So one of the neurotransmitters that is regulated heavily through natural full spectrum light we get exposed to during the day is serotonin. But serotonin is really, really important. Not only does it regulate our mood and our energy levels, serotonin is a precursor to melatonin. So in order to actually be able to make enough melatonin or secrete enough melatonin at night in the absence of blue light, you need enough of the building blocks to it, which is serotonin. And how do you get high levels of serotonin? You get a lot of natural exposure to blue light and full spectrum light during the daytime. So the kind of the habit of eliminating at night and getting enough exposure during the day really complement each other, and they really need to be taken both together. So that's why I would say, like, getting outside in the morning first thing really helps anchor the circadian rhythm, and then getting that enough sufficient exposure during the day ensures that you have really good serotonin levels heading into the evening, so you can actually then convert through the absence of blue light into melatonin and secrete melatonin. So I think that's just a really important point to make, because so many of our people will be so focused on the evening and what they're doing there, and completely ignore what they're doing while they're awake during the daytime, and actually making sure they're setting themselves up for a good night's sleep through through their daytime habits as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's great. All right, so let's just kind of highlight. So, what are those next big things that we can do besides the glasses?
Yeah,
What's
so
the
the
next?
next
I know you have
the
some lights here. Can
yeah
we just do dimmers? Like, what are the next couple of things? I want to hit those.
Yeah, so the next couple of things for me is looking at the lighting in your homes, because you can that's in the evening, it's the biggest exposure you're getting, right? No one lives in the dark. Everyone turns on lights in their evening so they can see and they can do evening activities, because the sun doesn't suddenly set and we all go to bed. So having more like biologically appropriate lighting or circadian friendly lighting for the evening is a big benefit to not only yourself but everyone in the home. So glasses, you have to wear them to get the benefits, and you have to remember to put them on. But if you've swapped out the lighting in your home to have more circadian friendly lighting where the blue light spectrum is being removed in the evening, everyone in the home benefits, and it's a much easier buy-in for the family, I guess, to benefit from it. So we have a range of, over the years we've developed a range of different fittings, from your can light bulbs to recessed lights to small little screw-in bulbs, and we've sort of got a range now where you can essentially look at your home, and we should hopefully have a solution that you can actually swap out the conventional light source for a more circadian friendly light source.
That makes sense. Well, good. And so, how do you incorporate now red light? So, red light's going to be in that mid 600 nanometer. So, like the blue light's
Yeah.
going to be in that mid to low 400. Green hits that low 500, and then now we hit red light. So now we're in that mid 600. There's a lot of good research on red light helping with mitochondria, doing a lot of things for regeneration, anti-inflammatory. Just kind of break down, just give it like a 1 minute overview on the science that you're aware of red light, and how do you incorporate it with kind of your recommendations?
Yeah, so I mean, so that we're really
For red
now
light.
moving into the realms of like what we'd call like red light therapy. And so red
Yeah.
light therapy isn't uh, just any kind of red light. It's very specific frequencies of red light. So
Which
quite
ones?
on,
Like
so predominantly,
635, 650?
yeah, 630 nanometers and 660 are the ones that have been shown in a lot of research. And then the other part of it is also making sure the radiance or power density is at a sufficient level that it can actually elicit the biological change. So what you alluded to is these frequencies of light are very bioactive in the body that help the mitochondria. So essentially, the mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cells, and they produce ATP, which ATP is the sort of the energy currency that our cells use. And so these frequencies of red light help the mitochondria produce ATP more efficiently. And so that helps with our energy systems. It helps with repair mechanisms. It helps. So like the red light primarily will work on the skin layer, will help with things like collagen production. It will help with like scar tissue. It will help with those sort of things. The other frequencies of light are near infrared light and a red light therapy panel. These are like 810 nanometers, 830 and 850. They're not visible frequencies, but they can penetrate deeper into the body. And these so they can help a lot, again, sort of eliciting the same pathways around mitochondrial stimulation to produce ATP. This can help with repair mechanisms in the body. So it can help with, joint health. It can help with back pain. It can help with anything around sort of repair and recovery. So there's a lot of research.
And I have a red light laser here. This is a class 3B. It's a one by Avant, but it's nice. It's 1200 millivolts. So it's very powerful, but this is a red light setting. This one has frequencies. So not only the wavelength, which is like the 635 plus or minus 10, but it has frequency, which is like the off or on to kind of harmonize with tissue. So it's got an inflammation, ligament. And so I can use this here and I can toggle back and forth. Now it's infrared. So you can see infrared penetrates deeper. That's like that mid 800 you were talking about. So this one goes deeper, joint inflammation. You can do it over thyroid. Just got to make sure you're monitoring your thyroid dose. Tissue, skin stuff. And so you were talking about red and infrared. Is there anything specific? Like, do you have a favorite of which one that you like better, kind of therapeutically, and why?
To be honest, I really like how we've designed our panels. We actually tried to put like what I call like multi-wavelength. So we don't really, so like most of ours will have 5 different frequencies in it. There's a lot of research. I really like 810 nanometer light. Like 810 has a lot of good research around neurological health as well, sort of brain conditions around like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, but it's also really, really also got a lot of benefits, sort of in the joint health space, inflammation as well. But in saying that, so did the other frequencies as well. I just see a lot of emerging research on 810 nanometers. So all of our devices, we're starting to favor 810 nanometers in there as well. It's just there's just so much. It's a very evolving space. Is the photobiomodulation, which is actually the scientific term for red light therapy. There's a lot of research coming out. Like if there's a database I kind of follow, and it's like now it's just building up. There's about over 8,000 kind of studies on photobiomodulation now, and it seems to be evolving quite rapidly. Which is really cool to see. It seems to be like, people starting to see, hey, like this stuff can really help with such a wide range of benefits because it's actually, ultimately working at the cell layer to, allow, the mitochondria to produce energy more efficiently, to upregulate the body's own ability to upregulate healing essentially.
Excellent. All right. Very good. So we have the infrared, we have the red, anything else? And so do you have a preference? Like I know you have some panels on the website here that we chatted about, or we didn't really chat about it, but we have them up here. Any feedback on the panels? Like, do you like sitting in front for like 10 minutes a day? Is that a good dose? Can you look at the red light? I know there's some, like with the lasers, the frequency is much more specific and much more coherent. So you got to be careful. That can blind you and impact the retina. But I know with some of the LED, they say you can look indirectly, infrared. It's kind of dicey. What's your take on that?
My take on it is, there is research to show the benefits of infrared and red light into the eyes, but I think context needs to be applied where, hey, it's not sitting there staring directly, eye level into the LED. We generally recommend we have a set of eyewear that will actually just reduce the intensity down. So it's not eliminating it from the eyes, but it reduces it down by 70%. So it allows the infrared and the red to still go into the eyes, but just not at the same like full intensity. These panels are very powerful. They're emitting very bright light. So, I mean, our recommendation is not to use them without the eyewear. Or if you are to use it without the eyewear, not to be staring directly at the panels.
Do you have those glasses on your website?
They are not on there. They just are included with each panel. We actually
Okay,
are
so
going
if you
to.
buy
We
it, you
actually
get it.
are. Yeah, they're like a green lens essentially, because green is what actually blocks red light, believe it or not, and infrared. So traditionally we used to supply it with like those
Like
kind of like
this.
sun.
These guys here.
Yeah, those are them. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
this is a OD3 for the red and an OD4 plus on the near infrared. So like I think the OD2 like 2 to 3 does like 99%, and the OD4 is like 99.9%. Does that resonate?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
It's just
Yeah.
it's the grade if you're buying them. They're on the side of the glasses.
Yeah.
That
So
way, if
those
you
those
run around your face,
those are
you can.
traditional ones for laser devices, right? Because yeah,
Yes.
like you said, a laser is a very narrow band with specific frequency, and it's at a very high power, which
So
is
yeah, so let's hit that. How is a laser like mine different than like an LED panel? So it's more just the coherence and the frequency behind it, or
so
like
yeah. So an LED will actually, we'll say, hey, we've got let's say we've got 8-10 nanometer LEDs in there. That's just the peak frequency. So it's actually emitting a range. So it will probably be from about 790 through to about 830 is probably the range. So it versus a laser would be exactly 810, and it wouldn't be emitting either side of that. So the difference is the power.
mm,
The power curve is a bit more distributed over. It's not nearly not nearly at the same power irradiance or light intensity, just based on the technology used. So it's more of a band of frequencies that you get from an LED at a much
it's like
lower
almost
power
like
intensity.
taking a magnifying glass and putting it in the sun. And when you
That's it.
make the circle big, you don't feel the heat or you a little bit, but then when you make it small, you can burn stuff, right? It's kind of like that,
That's
right?
it. Yeah. And just to be, and one important point to make is the concept of red light therapy or infrared light therapy is it's a non-thermal based thing. So the benefits aren't coming from heating the tissue. It's actually all the research shows and it talks about is actually the light it shouldn't be actually heating the tissue or taking it apart above 40 degrees. So it's really about those frequencies of light. Yeah, so it's very different to like an infrared sauna, for example, or something that's actually
Right.
just heating the tissue, and you're feeling some kind of pain relief or benefits from the tissue being heated or sweating. That's not what this is, and it can just get a little bit. People get a little bit confused because they hear the word infrared light and they think, oh yeah, it's the same as my infrared sauna, which when I turn it on conveniently actually has a red light and it makes it all look red, right? So it's quite a very different modality that has different mechanism of action and different benefits.
Correct. And so I've seen studies where I think it was a monkey study where they had monkeys with an injury on one side of the body, but the monkey was guarded. And so they were forced to red light the other side of the body. And it seemed like the red light was transferred in the blood cells and it was able to positively impact the other side, even though it wasn't hit directly. So you
Mm-hmm.
were kind of highlighting that. Like, it's okay if you don't hit the area directly. I mean, I know if you work on skin, you can help with pigmentation and collagen and elastin, from an aesthetic standpoint. But even from a functional standpoint, you can still impact the tissue, even though you're not hitting it. Correct? Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's just research showing this there are systemic benefits, right? Like, and I mean, I from what I read, yeah, they've certainly shown exactly what you've said, right? Like shining over here has had positive impacts or over the entire body, and obviously because it's irradiating the blood as the blood flows through the entire body. That red light is impacting, at the point that you're shining it in. So now I would say, but like if you're wanting to treat a specific problem, you probably should shine. It's probably more beneficial to shine it on
Right.
that area, like you said.
Like
Like
I have
if I've got it,
Hashimoto's, so I'm just giving it a
yeah,
little bit of anti-inflammatory reduction here.
that's
Again,
it.
contraindicated if anyone's listening, because it can lower your thyroid medication, so you may not need as much, so you may overdose it. So be mindful at
Yeah,
home if you do have that issue. You got to be testing yourself, making sure you're on point with it.
yeah, exactly.
Well, cool. Now, how does red light impact hormones? Can we use it to help with hormones if someone's going through menopause or any hormonal stressors? I know there's some data with men, for instance, like red light and the genital region that can help with testosterone. Any
Definitely.
feedback on how it can impact hormones?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so that is one, like, yeah, certainly around testosterone production. There's been a lot of research around males and red light exposure to the testes and improving testosterone. Yeah, I mean, in particular, I think like if there's a hormonal dysregulation going on, like uh, a lot of the time a root cause can be a mitochondrial dysfunction, right? So
Right.
ultimately, if you're able to help the mitochondria work more efficiently and produce ATP more efficiently, it's generally going to assist in that area, right? That's generally the what I look at and going, because a lot of the time there may not be we'll see like, yeah, someone's got like menopause or they've got a hormonal imbalance, and it's like there's not necessarily like, hey, we can actually see this is direct, like what the actual how it's actually helping in that area. But ultimately, yeah, if I come back to like, is there mitochondrial dysfunction happening? Am I using red light therapy and infrared light and it's actually improving my mitochondria? Well, then it's probably going to have a positive impact on, such hormonal
Yeah.
imbalance that's occurring.
Yeah, I think if you have hormonal issues, you want to get that looked at, but as an important adjunct, you want to get the light and the circadian rhythm dialed in. Now,
That's
I
it.
actually found you through some of the can lines. I was doing online searches and I saw that you guys have low blue light can lights, which was interesting because there aren't a lot of people on the market that have this. So, how would someone incorporate this? Is this something good to just install, like, and replace the can lights in your kitchen? Um, is it okay? Because how much blue light is removed from it? Will it be too sedating? Talk more about these can lights because I haven't seen a lot of these online.
Nah, that's why we spend a lot of time going, what's the most common kind of lights in the household and how can we
Yeah,
create
right here,
options.
these.
So yeah, so those recess can light retrofits, those are designed to just go into your pull out your light bulb, and these will actually screw in. Now
Oh,
these
and it's
ones that
got a
get
dawn to dusk, so it'll go more blue
different.
light, less
That's
blue
it.
light, huh?
Yeah, so we've got 3 settings on there. So you've got your like what we call like a full spectrum daytime setting, from the reasons I talked about, getting that good full spectrum light into the eyes during the daytime. How it's a nice crisp white, but it's very different to your conventional light in that it's got blue light, but it's got plenty of red. It's got the full spectrum of light in there. Your traditional lights, conventional lights, strip out all the red light. It's not efficient. It's not energy efficient. It doesn't, it's all about energy efficiency now. It's like, how can I produce the most amount of light with the least amount of power? And that's using primarily blue light and not the red light or the longer wavelength frequencies. And our one, we've actually included all them because we're not really shooting for the number one energy efficient bulb in the, on the market. We're shooting for the most healthiest, circadian friendly, most, biologically appropriate lighting. What this does is then you can actually use your light switch to turn it off and on and flick it to the night mode. So you can actually strip all the blue light out. So in the evening,
How do you
all
control it? Because normally you have like, on off, and then if
yeah.
you have a dimmer kind of toggle on the side, how do you incorporate night
So,
mode, day mode?
yeah. So with the light switch off and on, you can't use dimmers with these. So dimmers don't work with it. That's
Got it.
by design. That's by design, to be honest,
How do you
because
turn it off though? So if on is light, day mode, and off is night mode, how do you put it off
oh
in
no,
general?
so if your light's on and you want to change the mode, you turn it off and on really quickly. So
Oh, I
within
see. So
yeah,
boom,
yeah,
boom, got
yep,
it.
yep, and then
And then
that is yep,
that's so cool. So off, slow, on, and then off, on, fast, and then it changes the mode. Very
that's it.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's how I found you. So that's cool. I think that's really good to incorporate. What else are people utilizing? Because I mean, like I just tell people out of the gate, like the easiest thing is just get dimmer switches, right? And then if you're really sensitive, maybe look in your bathroom or look in your kitchen if you're spending a lot of time at night in there. Maybe look at some light changes. These are cool too because I mean these type of lights are common even in my home right here. Are these common things that you sell here and that people benefit from? Some of
Yeah,
these
those
lights.
these are just really all different form factors of the same light. So that's the BR30, which are
Got it.
commonly the bulbs that are used in the can
Yes.
fixtures. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yep.
yeah, yeah. So pretty much what we've done is we've just created all the different form factors, use the same technology, same bulb. So if you come to us and you go, oh, but I've got this different type of light, fitting, we're hoping we've got a form factor that will fit your home. That's kind of what we've been working on over the last, 4 or 5 years.
That's great. And same thing with that. Off, on, fast will change the mode.
Yeah, that's it.
That's great. Well, cool. I mean, I like, using some of these biohacking products that, can help improve your physiology. Any other big things that I wasn't aware of? We talked about some of the glass frequency, the glasses, the green,
Yeah.
the blue. We talked about some of the red light benefits, talked about some of the can lights. Anything else that's cool that you wanted to highlight?
I mean, the big thing for me, which it's still in the lighting space, which is quite important, is when you're traveling. Like, you might fit out your home with all these lights and everything, but then you're on the road or you're in a hotel room and, oh, hold on a minute, now my sleep is messed up because I don't have all those, all those lighting and stuff I fitted out at home. So what's really important, and it's what we've got, is like these battery powered lamps and like portable lamps that you can easily pack with you and travel with them. I do a lot of traveling for business, and that's the first thing I put in my bag every time. Is I've got a motion sensor nightlight that I put in the bathroom at the hotel, and then I have a couple of lamps that are now my bedside lamps, which are just USB-C charged, and they've got a little integrated battery that I can, I'm not having to suddenly pay the price of not having my home environment when I'm traveling. So that's just another thing, and we've got very, very similar kind of frequencies and the different similar types of lights, just more in the portable form factor that you can pack with you.
Very cool. Well, anything else about the science at all or physiology that you wanted to highlight at all for any of the listeners?
I mean, I think we've touched on it, but for me, one of the biggest hacks is it doesn't cost anything. It's just getting outside in the sun. I think people really don't overlook that one. And for me, it's a non-negotiable every morning when I get out of bed. I don't look at my phone. I don't look at artificial light sources. I get outside and get that natural light into the eyes. And it's a very important part of aligning your circadian rhythm and getting your sleep in check.
That makes sense. That's so helpful. Very good. Well, anything else, Daniel, you want to highlight that with the listeners at all? So your website is Low Blue Light or BlockBlueLight.com. So we have your site here in the description. People can see it, and we have notes and stuff below. Anything else?
I just say jump on our site, and we've got a blog resource. There's probably over 100 blogs we've written on there now, and they all host of different topics around light and health and different areas. So like if someone really wants to learn more and jump in, that's a good place to start. We try to write them in a way that the average person can start to understand, and we can break down the science in a easy, digestible way. So I'd recommend people go there and start there if they really want to learn more.
That's great. Excellent. And then regarding some of the changes you made, you mentioned the migraines and some of the sleep stuff. How long did you start to notice an improvement in those areas?
So for me, within a couple of weeks, I started to notice improvements. Within the space of about 6 weeks, I was back to sleeping through the night again, and migraines were gone within about 2 months, sort of thing. So
wow,
yeah. So it's about a year of suffering, and then about 2 months reversal. That's why I was just so blown away, like how fast and how quick, if you implement these changes and are consistent with them, you can really start to have quite quick, dramatic changes.
Now I have low blue lights. I got a ViewSonic screen. I went and got low blue light kind of lights on the monitor and low flicker. And so you mentioned like the Flex app that you can get, which is helpful. What about the flicker? How much does that have an impact? So if I got like low blue light and low flicker, is that a good type of monitor, criteria that you want to be purchasing? And talk about the flicker a little more.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even really touched on flicker and what that is and why we need to be aware of it. So flicker is a modern light source problem as well. So flicker essentially is the light source, the LED light source turning off and on very, very quickly, to be exact, about 120 times a second. The reason it does that is because you might have heard of like power being AC, which is alternating current power. So
correct.
How they get power from your substation into your home is through pulsing it down the line so it can move at a further distance. And they pulse it 120 times a second into your home to all your devices. They get power that way. Now, LEDs are digital, so they're either on or off. They either have light on when they've got power, or they don't and they're off. And so what that causes is flicker. So they're turning off and on, essentially strobe lighting so quickly that you can't actually see it. Your eyes, because the frames per second that are coming in, your eyes don't see it, but your brain does. Your brain can sense a rapidly changing light source. Why that's a problem? That causes neurological stress in the brain. It's making your brain works overtime to process an image that shouldn't be flashing and strobing. So the symptoms of that are eye strain, headaches, migraines. Essentially, it's very similar symptoms to overexposure to blue light can occur from flicker. So your monitors have flicker. And that, you'll see things that say 60 hertz, and that's the same frequency that the power's coming into your home at. So you're really wanting to look at for what I call like a high flicker rate, something that's like 120, 240, because it's and then it gets to the point where it's almost like a continuous light source, and the brain isn't sitting here having to, to try and like process a really rapidly flashing image. A really good hack is you can grab your phone and you can turn it onto the slow motion filming and film your light bulbs. That's an interesting one, because cheaply, poorly made light bulbs, they don't do anything to try to mitigate the flicker. And if you play that video back, you'll just see in slow motion, you'll just see the thing going crazy on your screen. And that's normally a sign that you've got pretty poor quality lighting, which is actually very commonly used, because, hey, like if I'm a manufacturer of lighting and like the average person doesn't know what flicker is, and you can't see it, why would I spend more money to actually make a higher quality light source without it? Because that's not their primary focus. So, I mean, that's a really easy test someone can do to see if they've got like some really bad flickering lights in their home.
That's excellent. That's really good. Excellent. Well, again, people can look at getting the Flux app. We can look at getting a good low blue light, low flicker monitor. That makes a lot of sense. Do you have any products? Are you looking at expanding your product line in that area?
And monitors, probably not.
Yeah.
In monitors,
Yeah.
nah, not at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, we're primarily focused really on probably actually creating more just the more like generic light sources we're interacting with in our home is probably our core focus. Also in the infrared and red light therapy is how we can create different form factors and ways people can bring that into their lives is probably our big focus this year.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Daniel. BlockBlueLight.com, link down below. Take a look at Daniel's information. I appreciate it. I found you from the can lights. That's how I was just searching. I'm like, there's not a lot out there on this. This is cool. So let me get you on. So appreciate you being part of the show and sharing all this great information. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Justin.